I've been playing Elden Ring non-stop since it released. In the roughly 10 days that have followed Elden Ring's release, I've clocked in about 50 hours of gameplay. I've been trying to defeat all the bosses and gather all the lore items I can get my hands on, and despite my hard-headed persistence, I'm only about halfway through. The game is overwhelmingly huge, bigger than any prior FromSoftware game. I fully intend to do a video attempting to explain the story of Elden Ring, but because of the game's unprecedented scope, it's going to take a while. That said, I will be releasing videos on specific pieces of Elden Ring lore before I release a full-on explanation of the game's story. This is the first of those videos. Before I begin, I will warn all of you that there will be parts of Elden Ring that will be spoiled. There will also be spoilers from the Dark Souls games and Bloodborne. If you don't want to learn about any of that just yet, please bookmark this video and come back to it later. Now, let's get started. For several years, fans have speculated that FromSoftware's games all operate within the same universe, specifically Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Though the games almost have nothing to do with each other, there are hints that the worlds in these games exist alongside each other in parallel dimensions. Though I see the concept discussed a lot in fan forums, most of the big Soulsborne YouTubers haven't discussed it. Those that do either ignore or are unaware of the elements that might link these games together. About a year ago, I released a theory video that tried to correct that state of affairs, that tried to explain the finer details of how and why these games were connected. Today, I wish to reinvoke that theory because Elden Ring provides several pieces of evidence in favor of it. Evidence that puts Elden Ring in the same universe as the other games. I will recap the main points that I made in that video. First, as we know, in the Dark Souls series, there are these things called arch trees. These trees function much like the world tree from Norse mythology, in that the worlds of the Dark Souls games exist either on top of the arch trees or on their branches. Take notice of the way that they are spaced out and how they reach up into the sky. Now, in Bloodborne, we see something similar in the hub area known as the Hunter's Dream. Pillars that are evenly spaced out and that stretch up into the sky. I, like many other people, theorized that these are either a reference to arch trees or are arch trees. The second thing that I want to bring your attention to is in Dark Souls 3, that the undead humans, the Hollows, appear to transform into trees upon death. I'll get to the finer details of these two elements in a moment, just focus on the visuals for now. In Elden Ring, we see references to both of these elements. In the area known as Siofra River, we see the same visual of the trees/pillars stretching upwards and being evenly spaced out. There's also another area where we see this, but I will save that for later. In several of the underground boss arenas, we see human flesh grafted onto tree roots, suggesting the same connection that the Hollows/humans had in Dark Souls 3. So the question is, why these two elements seem to be shared across all these games? I will recap what I said in my old video and then incorporate the new pieces of evidence from Elden Ring. Ever since the release of Dark Souls 3, there was this theory that the hollows that turned into trees would provide saplings that turned into new arch trees. These new arch trees would come about after the Age of Dark came to pass, when the Age of Fire began again. This theory works well for several reasons, the least of which is that it reflects one of the central themes of the Dark Souls series, the inevitable cycle of death and rebirth, the cycle of Age of Fire and Age of Dark. Another piece of evidence is the characteristic of hollowness. Many of the arch trees, if not all of them, are hollow. The world of Lordran from Dark Souls 1 sits upon a tree known as the Great Hollow. In the Dark Souls 3 DLC, you fight a boss inside a hollow arch tree. In Dark Souls 2, the arch trees in the area known as Things Betwixt are hollow. And just like all these trees, the beings that turn into trees are described as hollow. In this way, the hollow humans and the hollow arch trees reflect the old hermetic principle of as above, so below. As above, so below refers to the religious belief that a human being is made in the image of God, that the microcosm is made in the image of the macrocosm. The microcosm in this case is the undead hollow human, and the macrocosm is the archtree. I bring this up because Bloodborne makes reference to this type of language as well. The boss, known as the Orphan of Kos, was born from the god of the same name. Though, as the character Mikolash pointed out, it was also known as Cosm. Kos was the macrocosm, and the orphan was the microcosm. Now that we're on the subject of Bloodborne, I will now link the function of the Dark Souls archtrees to the ones in the Hunter's Dream. In the realms of both psychology and religion, there is a theory about how the mind is in part material, and the material world is in part mind. The duality and unity of mind and matter is a concept that has been explored in several video games, where the products of one's mind can come to life. These games include Silent Hill, Control, Death Stranding, and for the purposes of this discussion, Bloodborne. The two key examples from Bloodborne are the levels known as the Nightmare of Mensis, dreamt up by the School of Mensis, and the Hunter's Dream. They are products of a mind, or minds, but they are also physical places one can go to. I think the archtrees in Dark Souls represent the same principle, because just as a human/hollow is a unity of mind and matter, so is the archtree that they were born from. Just as a human mind is capable of a diversity of creations, an archtree is able to birth a world with a diversity of life. The Hunter's Dream in Bloodborne is just one of many dreams from several other individuals standing side by side. Before I move on to how Elden Ring fits into all of this, I want to acknowledge one major criticism that some people have had about this theory. Though the pillars in Bloodborne and Elden Ring reach up into the sky and are evenly spaced out like archtrees, they don't appear to be hollow, and actually appear to be made out of stone. It's hard to say whether or not they are made of stone because when you're in the game, bark and stone look so similar, but nonetheless, it's fair to think that they do look like stone, and they definitely are not hollow. At first, I did not know how to respond to this criticism, so I had to reach out to people who are greater scholars of Soulsborne lore than I am. One gentleman I spoke to, named EnrioX0, helped me reconcile this criticism with my theory. He said that when you're in something like a dream, or a state that is further away from reality, these pillars will look more like petrified archtrees or stone, lifeless, unconscious, and unhollow. However, when in actual reality, the trees spring forth into conscious life, hollowing out in the process. This works well when you consider the fact that the Hunter's Dream is, well, a dream. It also works well when you consider the Siofra River, where Elden Ring's pillars are located. This area is underground, in a dreamy, unreal location where many things are inverted. If this does not seem like a reasonable explanation, if you think I'm reading too much into all of this, consider the other place that these trees/pillars show up in Elden Ring. Spoilers for the very end of the game in 3, 2, 1. At the very end of the game, you can go inside the Erd tree and then fight a character named Radagon. After defeating him, you fight a boss known as the Elden Beast in an area that looks a lot like Ash Lake from Dark Souls 1, albeit a more cosmic, unreal version of it. Even if my attempt to explain the finer details of the archtrees/pillars weren't clear, the last example I provided should demonstrate that the archtrees/pillars in Bloodborne and Elden Ring are more than just callbacks to Dark Souls. They lie at the very foundation of these games. Aside from the archtrees, there are many other reasons to believe that these worlds are connected. The basilisk enemies from the Dark Souls games show up in Elden Ring. The concept of madness in Elden Ring and how it can only affect humans seems to be ripped right from Bloodborne's concept of frenzy. There's the character of Patches, who shows up in all the FromSoftware games, including Bloodborne and Demon's Souls. Most importantly, the worship of dragons and attempts to crossbreed with them is everywhere in Elden Ring. In case you don't know, the character of Aldia from Dark Souls 2 attempted to transcend the undead curse by merging human beings with dragons. This is how characters like Shanalot came about. The character of crossbreed Priscilla from Dark Souls 1, though not created by Aldia, is strongly suspected to be the progeny of a dragon. In Elden Ring, there's the character of Dragonkin Soldier of Noxtella, suggesting an attempted merging. Those are just some of the minor examples. I'm sure there are others that I'm forgetting, and others within Elden Ring that I have yet to discover. I hope that if you come across them, you'll notify me in the comments section of this video. There are other elements to this theory that I wish to discuss, namely how the Erd Tree came about, and how it might have been responsible for giving the world of Elden Ring its name, that name of course being the Lands Between. But that will have to be saved for another time. If you like this video, please give it a like. It's free and it helps me out a lot. If you want to see other deep dives into the FromSoftware games, ones that are easier to understand but no less deep, consider clicking on either of the videos you see on screen now. If you enjoyed this video or any of the other videos on my channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. There are multiple tiers with multiple rewards to choose from, including early access to my videos. Finally, I want to acknowledge and thank the team I've put together who are helping me piece together the world and story of Elden Ring. Shout out to Isaac, Eliza, Ivecard, Henry, Locksneed Martin, Loveless, The Hourman, and the aforementioned NryuX0. Until next time, stay yellow.